give us a few remarks. I think he's online. Welcome. Good evening, Congressman. Can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Wonderful. Well, let me just say thank you to Albert Wang. Thank you to the extraordinary leadership of the Asian American community. It is such a great event to see Asian American elected officials gather, and our leadership is so critical on so many issues, on creating jobs, on entrepreneurship, on innovation, on standing up for education, and in making such a contribution now to our political system. When Albert started out in the Bay Area, there were very few Asian Americans who were participating. Thanks to him and CeCe Yin and Henry Yin and Paul Fong and so many Asian American leaders, we now have a robust voice. We have an Asian American, myself, representing us in Congress. We have Asian Americans in the Assembly, will be in the state Senate, and in so many different aspects. And that is a testament to all of you. We need to move towards a nation where our kids, where Asian Americans are seen as very much part of the fabric of this country. We need to speak out against xenophobia on immigrants coming here. It still happens where people are discriminated against because of being Asian, suspected of not being patriotic or national, and that we have to fight. We have to fight Asian hate that still exists, unfortunately, in our streets. But mostly we have to tell our story with pride of what we're doing and achieving on so many dimensions in job creation, education, science, technology, in so many service jobs. And we need to make sure that all of our Asian American community is participating, remembering that not everyone is doing extraordinarily well, and we need to make sure everyone has education and healthcare to succeed. So let me just thank Albert Wang, thank all of the Asian American leaders, say how proud I am to represent the only Asian majority district in the continental United States, and how I believe that we need to move towards a 21st century that works cooperatively with, of course, all of the Asian American community, but also building ties to Asia to see a world ultimately at peace and with prosperity. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me join, and really congratulations and good luck with the program.
Thank you very much, Congressman. Congressman Rucana serves as the U.S. representative from California's 17th Congressional District. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Next, I would like to have the summit's organizer, API Coalition President, Mr. Andy Lee, to deliver welcome remarks to us. Yeah!
Thank you, Terry. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Good evening, everyone. My name is Andy Lee, and I'm the Contra Costa Community College District Governing Board. I was elected in 2018. Also, I'm lucky to be the president of API Coalition. You see the jacket, that's the API Coalition logo. Also, I'm the president of the Civic Leadership USA. And jointly, we organized this event. The purpose of this event to get people know each other and build a connection. Everyone knows in the past 2 years it's tough. We have a pandemic and we are all separate. We don't meet much. And now we are fortunate we can meet in person. So in this summit, we intentionally don't set any goal. Instead, we just build a platform so that we can meet each other, build a connection. In the future, we can help each other share information and build a pipeline for the API. And today, I'd like to introduce the team for the API Coalition, also the Civic Leadership USA. So maybe I can start with the API Coalition. We have our chair, Albert Wang, here. Also, we have our vice chair is Rongchou. Where's Rongchou? Rongchou's here. We have a board member, Sandy Chow, here, also the major sponsor for this event. Thank you so much, Sandy. We have our Secretary Joe Wang here. And where's Nancy? I didn't see Nancy here. Maybe I can introduce her a little bit later. And Nancy is, Nancy, come in. Yeah, Nancy is the treasurer for the API Coalition, and she's also helped coordinate the event with the volunteers. And for the Civic Leadership USA team, like I said, I'm the president here, and I'm so lucky Sandy pulled me in as the president starting this year. So we have Sandy is the chair of the Civic Leadership, also the founder and the major donor for the Civic Leadership USA. For API Coalition, we just build a coalition. For Civic Leadership USA, what we do is we provide funding to support civic leadership program as well as the civic internship program. And we have a few people from the Civic Leadership USA. I think I'll start with those. I introduced Sandy. We have H.P. Wang, that's our board member over there. And our board member, Vincent Wang, just came in. That's here, our board member. Do I see Diana here? I didn't see Diana here. And also, where's Anthony Ying? Anthony, oh, Anthony here. Sorry. You're so close to me, I don't even see it. And also, we have our couple director here, and we have Qingbai here. He's our director in charge of internship. And also we have Julia here, and in charge of a lot of stuff in the Civic Leadership USA. And today I also like to share some information with you about the past event we had. On the May 19th, we organized a group. We have a float to join the San Francisco Chinese New Year Parade. So who was there in the event? So I see a lot of hands raised. Thank you. So I want to share some photos. You know, we have a booth in San Francisco, Chinatown. We distribute the yellow whistle we got from the Dennis Wu. Thank you, Dennis. And you know the reason we distribute the yellow whistle because the anti-Asian hate crime. We really hope people, when they got hit, got bullied, they can blow the whistle, can help them. I want to share the story when we got there. There was a lady there told us that morning she was attacked. She was so thankful for us to give her the yellow whistle. Okay. So this is another one. See, we have at the event, and the organizer only allow us to have 60 people, so we have 10 people for the organizer, sponsor, and 50 API elected officials to work on the street. And we got 52 in our parade group. We also got a dozen in the waiting list we cannot admit. And someone suggested maybe we can have 2 floats next year. Hopefully we can make it. Okay, this is our float. You know, people are really excited taking all these photos. Next. Yeah, see, this is led by the Cupertino mayor, Darcy Paul, and with all these elected officials here. And next one. And this is a group on the float. You see the Attorney General Robonta is on the float. Also our sponsor, Sandy, Sinkung was there, but I couldn't find Sinkung. Also Albert, Dan is there, and Joe Wang is in the back. Next. And this is a close photo. You see Joe Wang there. Yeah, another person I want to point out is the Antioch mayor. Is Lamar Dobb. The reason we have him because he worked with us in the past, first ever apology to early Chinese immigrants. After that, we got San Jose City passed the apology to early Chinese immigrants, and then Los Angeles, and then Anthony and her son led the team pass a resolution in San Francisco. I just heard another city said Denver passed a resolution. Denver passed a resolution to apologize to early Chinese immigrants. Next. Yeah, this is a photo I got from my friends. Next. Yeah, so this is our group photo. At the end, even after the parade is finished, people are still very excited. We're there chatting, and then we took group photo. And you see how many people, and we all wear that jacket, red jackets. And one interesting thing is here actually is well covered. And my friend Cedric Chen helped me to put the API coalition logo there, make it beautiful. So I think we had a great time. Also, we built a lot of great connection there. And from there, we say, let's do an API-led official summit. In 2.5 months, we made it. And we got close to 200 API-led officials. I reached out to all of them. And 120 confirmed their attendance. I just checked with our volunteer, about a little over 100 people showed up. And some may show up in just a short period of time. And some people, because the COVID, the flu, they couldn't show up, like David Chu, the city attorney in San Francisco. And he texted me just yesterday, saying he was so sick that he couldn't make it. So. But still a good gathering, and also I think last night I sent you a API elected officials roster. I hope you received that. That one has almost all 200 API elected officials there with their photo. Most of them have a photo, title, bio. Hopefully from here we take down and we build more connections. So what's next after this event? We're not just hold this event and then we are gone. And our plan is to, after this event, we host a quarterly elected official meeting in each county. And we'll sponsor the food for the elected officials. But at that time, this event, we don't recruit people like commissioner, committee member, candidates, or committee leaders. But at the quarterly meeting, we will recruit those people, welcome those people to join us. And so we can build a connection, share the resource, share the information, and help each other. This is the way to build a pipeline. And on the other side, this is the first API elected official summit we organized. And immediately after this, we're going to Southern Cal. Hopefully we can organize one in Southern Cal, and also we have 2 or 3 people from Portland. We are going to have one in Portland and even the Seattle area. Hopefully, we build one at a time, and then later in the future, we build a coalition nationwide. And my dream is in 5 years, we'll have over 500 current API elected officials meet in DC. We have a big gathering. I think at that time, the president should show up, right? So thank you so much for attending our event. Hope you enjoyed it and make new friends, and just keep informed. I definitely will send you more emails. Thank you.
Thank you very much, President Andy Lee. KTSF broadcasted the Chinese New Year parade. I was the host, so I asked our director to give you more time, to give your flow more time. Now I would like to introduce our event sponsors. First, please welcome API Coalition Board Member, also founder and chair of Civic Leadership USA, Mr. Sandy Chu. You look so handsome today.
Besides getting the handsome awards, I really appreciate the gathering today. I remember 7 years ago when CLUSA first started, and then we're looking for role model, people who three things. We want to have the legislators equal representation because we have the capability, we have the desire, and then we have the skill set. And more so, we just want to have more of us to be appointed as commissioner. So this is why today I met a lot of people. I said, we just have to get our friends, ourselves, a resume that's relevant. Relevant is, we already have a lot of qualifications, but relevant is you engage in civil activities, you contribute to society and make society better. Then with those resumes available, we will have more Asian Americans be appointed as commissioner. But most importantly, at that time, I continue with stress. We're the best country in the world. The best country deserves the best people working in the government. Asian Americans are very shy in that category. But I would say, to make a change, we need good legislators for Asian Americans. We need a commissioner. We should be ready to be as a commissioner. At the same time, we should encourage ourselves, our next generation, and make the government work the best. So this is something that together we help each other. I think we'll have all kinds of skills that when we share, we are united. United is a very strong word, and I appreciate everybody's senses.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sandy Chu. Chow. Thanks for the correction. He invested a lot and he's been very successful in investing in high-tech companies. And he contributed even more for the future leaders. So thank you for that, and also thank you for taking care of the bills. Next, I would like to invite another event sponsor to come on stage, Mr. Ken Fong. Please share a few remarks to us.
Thank you very much. And I have three things I wanted to share with you. One, you must recognize that this event is organized by my friend Andy, Albert, and other board member. And I would like to thank them for doing that. You have to look at Sandy and Cinco and myself. Our professional is a high-tech investor. We invest. We invest for success. That means we invest in this organization. We want to get tangible results from the people who do the implementation. That's what we want. What we want, two things, is continuity and sustainability. I told Andy and Albert, almost forgot Albert's name. And that these two things, I'm going to go after that. Continuity and sustainability. That means it's not going to one time, two times. It's going to continue. That means to say that the elected official had to get something out from it. Me as an investor had to get something out from it. That is very important. Second, we come here to learn from each other, to actually understand each other. But the most important thing is that we have to unite among each of us together for the common purpose, so we can serve our community and also serve our country. That's really the purpose of coming together for this purpose. First, you look at me, look at yourself. We're ethnic minority in this country. We're Asian American. I always think that's a hyphen American, right? But I want you to let you know that we should never apologize being American. We are American. So that means to say you go out there to make a difference because you're American for our country. That's what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ken Fong was also the first Chinese American trustee emeritus of the CSU Board of Trustees. That's remarkable. Yeah. And now I would like to invite another event sponsor, entrepreneur, and civic leader, Mr. Xin Kong, to come on stage and share a few remarks.
Good evening. First, I'd like to really thank all the elected officials sitting here because your participation, your dedication, you already make our community stronger. You already make our community voice heard. Also, of course, we also thank the organizer, Sandy Arbor, and those two, also the Andy, and also those two organizations. I started my career about 60 years ago in the Silicon Valley as an engineer. Then gradually, our community started to get involved. I still recall in the early 80s, we have one individual, Tommy Sui, run for the school board, get elected for school board. Now 50 years later, now we see have so many elected officials to represent us in this democratic political system. We're so proud of you, really. I think we all know a story. If you want, anyone can easily break one arrow. But when there's a bundle of arrows, nobody really can break them. Just like Sandy and Ken mentioned, unite will make us stronger. But a united is not say we agree everything together. It's not. They have different opinions. You will need to find a compromise. You need to find a middle ground. Usually, a compromise, a middle ground solution is best for the community. So this event really try to unite together. I think we need to congratulate the organizer to make the event happen. And this is really our new beginning to unite us together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Xin Kong is also the managing partner of Acorn Campus Ventures. Thank you so much. And thank you, the event sponsors, for your contribution and generosity. Also now, please welcome our first keynote speaker for tonight, State Treasurer Fiona Ma. Welcome.
Thank you very much. It's great to see everyone, and especially APIs, elected officials, well-respected leaders in our community. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my background. I never thought I would be in elected office. My parents were both born in China, immigrated to Hong Kong, met in Canada, and then decided to settle in New York, where I was born, as well as my brother, Michael Ma. So we grew up in Great Neck, Long Island. Not a lot of people look like us growing up. But my parents moved out there because of the good schools and the free public school system that was out there. So growing up, my parents wanted us to be one of the lead professions, a lawyer, engineer, accountant, or a doctor. How many of you had parents or are parents yourself that want your kids to be one of the lead professions, lawyer, engineer, accountant, or a doctor, right? So, I'm an accountant, I'm a CPA, my brother is an engineer, my sister is a doctor, we're just missing one other child to be a lawyer. But my parents, were kind of proud of us. I started out working with one of the big 8 accounting firms, Ernst & Winnie, that's how old I am. And I stayed for 5 years because there were no women or people of color that looked like me. And that's important when we are looking at a company, at a position, whether you can aspire to those positions, and there wasn't anyone. So I quit and started my own practice at the age of 28 years old and became the president of the Asian Business Association. And our parents never encouraged us to run for student body council, right? It was like, get straight A's, play an instrument, and then you can do whatever you want, and I was pretty good at sports, so that's what I did. I never got involved in politics. So all of a sudden, at the age of 28, president of the Asian Business Association, I had to go and lobby the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, go to Sacramento to testify, got involved in the 1995 White House Conference on Small Business, and had 2 mentors, Harrell and Frank Fong. I don't know if any of you know Harrell and Frank Fong, but they were always saying, we need to be at the table. We need to apply for commissions, get appointments, and eventually run for office. And so this was 25 years ago. So I started going, wow, maybe I want to do that. Like, I want to help people. My grandfather was a minister. So my mother was all about serving, and my father was all about making money. So I followed my father's footsteps because I had a tiger dad, right? But I always had that sense of community and service. And so it just kept pulling me. Like many of you in this room today, we get pulled to public service because we see that there's so many people that are struggling, that don't have a voice, that need our help. And when we are able to step up and represent, we can make a difference. But it took 8 years before my parents actually kind of relented to let me run for office. My parents, I grew up in a generation where my parents didn't care whether I was happy growing up. They wanted me to do what they wanted, right? That made them happy. So, I'd say, Mom and Dad, I appreciate your sacrifice, and I know you like me being an accountant, but I think I want to run for office. And my parents would say, please don't do that. Being an accountant is an honorable profession. Why would you want to throw away all your degrees and your education? So I don't know, I just want to do that. I think I can do it. And so they would say, well, we want you to go get your MBA. Maybe that'll bring you back to your senses. So I went and I got my MBA from Pepperdine. And my parents said, okay, what do you think? And I said, I still think I want to run for office. And then they said, well, maybe you should get married because your brother is waiting to get married. So I found a nice guy that my father approved of. He was an engineer, he had his MBA, he played tennis with him. So my dad was happy. So finally I said, okay, I'm 35 years old. Can you please just let me do one thing in my life? And they looked at me and they said, okay, fine. You want to run for office? Go ahead, we're gonna move to Las Vegas. And they left, okay? And I was able to run. And so I ran for the San Francisco Board of Supervisors back in 2002. There were 8 candidates, 4 Asians, 4 non-Asians. And back then, the Sunset District was supposed to be the Chinese seats. And so I managed to win, and I was the only Chinese Asian elected official on that Board of Supervisors. There were 11 of us. And I was only the second woman at the time. And I did something, I hired 2, we only had 2 aides at the time, right? So I hired 2 Asian aides, and they were both 2 women. And you know how much flack I got for that? They go, you can't hire 2 Asian aides, you need to have a Caucasian, maybe an Irish aide. I said, I understand that if I'm elected, every person in San Francisco is gonna come to me. And they did. So I had one that spoke Mandarin, one that spoke Cantonese, okay? And then they said, you can't hire 2 women. I said, all these other guys have all men. Okay, why can't I hire 2 women? And so that was like really the first time, like I really kind of, broke the mold, but I understood that our community, when we need help, it's not fair for one person to have to handle the whole community. And so we were pretty successful. But being on the Board of Supervisors, San Francisco, as many of you know, it's like the game show Survivor. No permanent friends or enemies, everyone's trying to throw each other off the island. So when the opportunity came to run for the state assembly, I said, I'm out, I'm leaving. And so I ran against a very wealthy, also wealthy Democrat woman. And I did not come from money, I did not have money, but we work hard, right? We're willing to put in the work, we go door to door. And voters understand that when Asians actually run for office, it's because this is a passion of ours. We're not trying to see our name in lights. We're not trying to make money. Because as we all know, we do not stay for the pay, right? So I got elected. I served 4 years as majority whip, and then my last 2 years as Speaker Pro Tem, passed 60 bills, felt really at home in the state legislature because it was all about the team sports, and I'm a team sports type of person. Then I faced term limits. It was 2010, we had redistricting, we lost the Senate seat in San Francisco, so I'm home. By this time, my parents moved back and they were living with me, and my dad's like, this is a sign. You need to go back and do accounting. Make more money, And I said, Dad, I'm gonna run for the State Board of Equalization. And he goes, what is that? It's a tax board. And he was like, okay, at least you're getting closer. So, spent 4 years on the State Board of Equalization, and then I ran for the state treasurer in 2018, and now my father is proud of me. Finally. He tells everyone, she's the treasurer of the 5th largest economy. She's 5th in line. If anything happens to the governor, she's gonna be governor, number 5. So finally, things are peaceful in the Ma household. So as state treasurer, some people ask, they don't understand the difference between controller and treasurer. As state treasurer, I am your banker. All the money comes into my office. Last year, it was $3.2 trillion. That's a lot of zeros, right? It's 12 zeros to be exact. I sell all the bonds for the state of California and the UC and CSU systems, and I also manage a short-term portfolio of $208 billion. So that's on the constitutional side of my required duties. Then over the years, thanks to Jess Unruh, Speaker Jess Unruh, who was treasurer, I now chair 15 boards, commissions, and authorities that funds and finances affordable housing, schools, hospitals, public transportation, advanced manufacturing, green energy. Anything that needs money in the state of California usually comes to my office. And so I'm kind of loving my position because instead of being hated as the tax collector, I am now loved as the banker because I actually give away money. That's why people say, you kind of look good these days. You don't age. Well, because this job kind of suits me now. But after, 25 years in this business, we need to mentor the next generation, right? Andy Lee does a great job. Great job, Sandy, for recruiting Andy. He is on the ball. He called me like 6 months ago and made sure that I'm gonna show up. I'm sure like all of you, to make sure this is a successful event. But it is not easy. It is not easy as elected officials, right? We put ourselves out there. We wanna do a good job. We think we're making good decisions, trying to help people, and yet we are criticized all the time. And I would say in San Francisco, half the city hates me every day, and it's not the same half, right? Depending on your vote, depending on where you go, what you say, what you don't do, you don't return a letter. So we thank all of the sponsors, our donors. Thank you for supporting us in this effort, because these days, anyone on social media can say anything they want about you, whether it's true or false. The media can write anything about you, and we cannot defend ourselves because we're elected officials, so we have to kind of put up with it. But with all of your support, these organizations like CLUSA and API Coalition, this is how we build a stronger network. This is how we help each other advance. Because if we are not at the table, decisions are being made without us. Funding, policy, as well as things like the API Hate Initiative. And I thank Mr. Tanaka for starting 8x8, and many of the elected officials that stand and had rallies in their communities and activated our API community, because we are shy. We don't want to speak out. We don't want to show up. We don't want to attend rallies and scream on a megaphone, but we have to in our own way. So I just thank everyone for everything that you're all doing, elected officials, for putting yourself out there, for sacrificing your personal time, and to all of the donors and the sponsors who allow us to do what is our calling, and that is public service. So keep up the good work. I was inspired. I was in the Santa Clara cohort. There were 35 elected officials, and all of them said they were running for re-election, okay? And that's what it's gonna take for us to stand together regardless of how difficult it is, but this is an honorable profession, as we all know. We are making a difference every day. So keep with it, help each other, support each other, and this is how we are gonna make sure our next generation is going to be better, more represented, and have a better life than our generation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, President Fiona Ma. That's very inspiring for Asian Americans, and especially for younger generation, young girls like my daughter. Thank you so much for setting up such a good example. Next up, please put your hands together for second keynote speaker, Mayor of Seattle, Mr. Bruce Harrell, who came all the way from Seattle. Welcome.
Thank you. As introduced, my name is Bruce Harrell. I'm the first mayor of API descent in the history of the city of Seattle. I would like to thank the API Coalition and the Civic Leadership USA for this, what I consider a phenomenal opportunity. So I'm going to be very candid with you, very truthful, because quite candidly, I'll tell you a little bit about my background, and I got to tell you, Ms. Ma, I was very inspired by your story. I don't typically tell my personal story in Seattle because I was born and raised there, and most people sort of know it. I spend more time talking about what is relevant to you. If building unity was easy, we would do more than just talk about it. So I spend more time talking about how do we accomplish that. I don't adore the question. I like spending time talking about solutions. But I'll give you some context because, quite frankly, some of you are probably Googling me on your phone, trying to figure out, well, who is this guy? What is his story? So I'll share a little bit about myself. I'll try to weave it in. But I'm going to tell you the punchline. The talent in this room is amazing. Hardworking, educated, ethical people You wake up early, you do the hard work. The talent here is phenomenal, and I am speaking to leaders, people who already have defined sort of who found their sense of self-purpose. So growing up, I never said I was going to be a leader. I just put in the work. I'll tell you a little bit about the story. I think where Fiona's story and mine differ is if you go to my office at the city of Seattle, and remember, we are the second most affluent city in this country. I am a strong mayor, meaning that I am in charge of a $3 billion budget that some cities have weak mayors. I have to actually be the executive of the city making fiscal decisions. And I also have to kiss babies and go on parades and give fancy speeches. But my story is a little different because if you come to my office, you'll see when I was 18 years old, and that wasn't just a few years ago. I was accepted to Harvard and Yale and Stanford, and I had thought about going to those schools. I graduated valedictorian of my class. I was the MVP in 3 sports. I guess you would call me an overachiever coming out of high school, and I spent some time at Harvard, but I committed to Stanford. But as this article states, it said, I'm going to go to the University of Washington. That's where I decided, against my parents' desire. Go Huskies. And in the first paragraph of the article, it said, because I'm going to be mayor of the city of Seattle someday. It's in my office. 1977. So my calling was a little different, that I looked at my own background. My mother was Japanese, and she was interned under the executive order 9066, which many of you know. My father and mother met when they were 14 years old. My father is African American. He came from Louisiana. They met and went to high school together, and they didn't know they were going to produce a kid that looked sort of like he was Hawaiian. But I was born more privileged than most because they were ahead of their time, and they were married their entire life. They both have transitioned and passed away shortly around each other through natural causes. But they told me at a young age I could do anything. I could do anything that I wanted to, and they instilled in me a voracious appetite to read and to collaborate. And I'm going to weave that story into what I want to talk about, the opportunity that the API community has before us right now. We are being hated right now. Let's just get it out there. Hate crimes are up 2% overall. Just read an article that hate crimes against the API community is up 339%. We are being hated right now. And this isn't the first time in our history or in the history of the world where certain ethnic groups have been hated. You may recall in the 14th century, the European Jews were blamed for the bubonic plague. Many of you know right here in this area in San Francisco in the 1900s, the plague in Chinatown. You remember that story. The 1980s, the Haitians were blamed for HIV/AIDS. This is not new to this country. Many of you know the 1882 Chinese Exclusion Act was in effect for 61 years to 1943. But what was right before it? Executive Order 9066 in 1942. The Asians, this is nothing new to us, API community, nothing new at all. And like I said, my mother was 11 years old. There was a whole block where my Japanese parents, they owned flower shops. My mother's name was Rose because my grandfather, that was his favorite flower. All taken from them. So how was I, in a city that's one of the richest in the country, that is 66% white? Our API community is approximately 14%. African Americans less than 8%. And in my race, and I'm going to tell you this, just so I'm clear, in my particular race, there are 15 people running. There was a person whose grandfather was a mayor and a governor, there was a city council president, there was a state legislative person, 15 people running. There was an NBA star for 20 years, there were community activists. In addition to that, organized labor put in about 1.5 million, and in addition to that, Bernie Sanders, AOC, Elizabeth Warren, Pramila Jayapal, the progressive flank of the Congress, all supported my opponent. In addition to that, we won by the largest margin in about 30 years. And as much as I like to think it was my dazzling good looks that got me elected, I'd like to think that. The first reason we won by such an aggressive margin, because quite frankly, as you heard from Fiona and other electeds in here, very simple strategy. We worked the hardest. We outworked everybody. Make it clear, I have 3 deputy mayors. They're all women. I have 12,000 employees. I have 3 revenue streams of $1 billion apiece. We have organized labor. We have a lot of the challenges in the city. But Seattle is an interesting city because many of you spend time there. We open it up to trade to China. We are first and foremost a port maritime city. From that, we build aerospace, another way to transport goods. So from a port to a manufacturing to a maritime city, we built aerospace. And then in 1962, we had the World's Fair. And you know we put the Space Needle in there to say that all the world will be a city of creative thinking and innovation. And from that, we built high-tech and biotech. And we built a great university system. We educated nurses in healthcare. Right now, I've had the luxury of having a one-on-one meeting with Andy Jassy, who replaced Jeff Bezos. I've been in the home of Bill Gates to talk about health and human services. I have a pretty good hand up here in Seattle because we are rich with resources. We have a compassionate city, but we have income inequality. We have the richest 2 people in the world right there, but we have people living in tents and in cars. So what was my secret sauce? Well, first of all, with the defund movement, I said, I'm not defunding anything. I just came out with it. And the reason I'm not defunding the police, because I could read a balance sheet and I could read a profit and loss statement, and while I am intolerant of racism, intolerant, in fact, I've led national class actions on racism. I actually, as an attorney, I didn't weave that in, I'm an attorney by profession before I was elected. And by the way, I was on the city council. I was the only person of color for a while on the city council. Let me clarify that. It was me and 8 white folks. Just be clear. And I was the 4th person in our city history to be council president twice. And what I said was, because I could read a balance sheet, you invest in an organization you want to optimize, and I want everyone, black, brown, yellow, red, whatever the rainbow is of people, I want them all safe. That is a unifying element, make no mistake about that. I've never met a community that said they want to be unsafe. I want 7-minute response times. But I said also, and it took some controversy, I said that if you see the George Floyd video and you see Officer Chavain kneeing on his neck, you will never be an officer in my department unless you will admit that that was inhumane murder. So let's get this straight. We don't tolerate racism, but we want to fight for safety. So that was my first narrative. The other piece that I talked about was education. When I look at people that are falling through the cracks, everyone is not as gifted as Fiona. Everyone's not as gifted with numbers. Some people are good with their hands. Some people are sculptors. Some people are artists. Some people could develop code. Some people could do research. So I believe in gift-based learning. So I talked about our educational strategies will be our biggest equity movement in the city. That's a unifying element. And I say this to aspiring politicians, every opportunity you have to unify a crowd, to unify a city, to unify a state, to unify a country, you take full advantage of that, and we all want to feel safe. I use words like hope, faith, love, and kindness because people on the bookends of politics, they're consumed with hate. Hate is not a sustainable kind of energy. So in our campaign, we talked about hope, faith, and love. And so what wasn't also mentioned in my background, so I played football for the University of Washington. I actually led the Rose Bowl in tackles in 1978. I played in the Sun Bowl as a linebacker. I'm one of the top 10 leading linebackers in University of Washington history. So when you're a middle linebacker, you don't run away from contact. You have to run into it. And so, growing up, there were not a lot of Asian athletes. My parents had the foresight, it was luck to be honest with you, to name me Bruce, because Bruce Lee, that was my guy. Bruce Lee, I must have had more Bruce Lee posters in my room than any child possibly, and I played linebacker like this because that's how he used to fight. I didn't have a lot of role models. And so when I use words like hope, faith, love, and kindness, I also talk about discipline, that you have to have a level of discipline. My wife, I've been married for over 30 years, and my oldest son received his master's from the University of Washington. Our daughter finished her master's at Boise State, and our middle son is getting his MBA from Wharton Business School. He graduates in a couple of weeks. And I talk to them about discipline. So in my political message, that's a word that I use. You have to have discipline. Now, my API brothers and sisters, this is going to get a little sensitive what I'm going to close with here. I'm just going to give me a few more minutes. I just finished the book Pachinko. Many of you read that, about a Korean family that immigrated to Japan by Min Jin Lee. I understand they're turning into a movie or series now or something like that. That talks about the soft underbelly of our API community. The soft underbelly. What is that soft underbelly? Is they lump us all together. But we know we've had our own differences. So when we talk about this word uniting that we believe in, we have to first own our own ethnic challenges, and it's okay to talk about. I am biracial. I don't look at anyone, I don't think there's anyone in this room that's half black and half Japanese. If you are, will you raise your hands? I found the promised land with that person. So when I look at you, I just want to know what we have in common. I will find that commonality. When I grew up, and I don't know, and I've got a few gray hairs in my hair, and see the younger folks, when I grew up, the whole racialized discussion was black and white, black and white, black and white. You know, they wanted us to be the model minority, right? And in these racialized discussions in this country, I wasn't sure where I fit in. First of all, I was mixed, but more importantly, I didn't know what our story's about because I was living with a mother who always said, speak your English well, be American, stay under the radar, play by the rules. And while I was passionate for justice, I didn't know where I fit into that narrative. My first cousin, who was Japanese, married a fine cousin who's Chinese. And so their two kids are half Chinese and half Japanese, which is really I get a kick out of that because I talk to them about their experience. I think I'm their favorite uncle, I think. Because I talk to them about the challenges they have. Because I think we will not get to this uniting part until we really start to recognize what we have in common. First of all, no one in here wants to get COVID, right? I mean, we had a president calling it the Chinese flu, right? Creating fear in this country against our community. So we know we want our kids to be educated better than we are. We know we want safety. What are these unifying elements? So when you have your breakout sessions, when you have your strategy sessions, when we unite the API community, I think we can play an integral role in this country because this country's struggling with equity versus equality. Now, what do I mean by that? And this is my close, by the way. This is my mic drop. They're struggling with equity versus equality. So what do I mean by that? And I support equity. I mean, equality is easy. Treat everybody the same. That's equality. When I was on the city council, I noticed that the street lights were out. in the poorer areas. And but in the more affluent areas, they seem to be less streetlights out. So I did a study and I said, well, what is the policy? And they said, well, the policy is this. When people complain, we replace them. That's fair, it's equal to everybody. But then why are the poorer areas, why do they have more out? Well, we found out because they don't complain as much. Or they assume someone else is going to complain, and a lot of them are doing other things, working multiple jobs, but affluent people, they complain like that. So it was an equal policy that had a disparate impact on communities. And so we were smarter than them. So first of all, let's change our strategy from high pressure sodium, the yellowish lights, to LED lights. First of all, that's environmental friendly. And then we started changing them in quadrants. Because if you think about it, simple math, you know the lifespan of a light. And it was more expensive for our crews to go from all over the city when people were complaining. The less expensive route was to do it in quadrants based on the life expectancy of the bulb. So we were efficient, but we also addressed the issue of equity. And right now with the decisions at Harvard, dealing with the Harvard case and the University of North Carolina case on equity versus equality and the race-conscious admissions discussions that are going on, I'm going to suggest to you, and I may not be invited back next year, but that's okay. I'll still come even if I'm not invited. That we have to be a champion for justice, for equity, because we have to recognize that our indigenous brothers and sisters were here first. We have to recognize that African Americans were brought over here in slave ships, and that there's institutional and historical racism, and that they are not at an equal footing with many Americans. We have to recognize that this community here still suffers from discrimination as real as the sun is in the sky. It is real stuff. And we have to recognize that justice should be what unites us in a country that will turn minorities against one another. That's my message. That is very seductive for those in power to turn people against one another. That is the gift we have in this API community, because unlike other communities, we got Chinese, Japanese, Laotians, Vietnamese, Filipinos, East Indians. We are diverse within ourselves, and if we could lead these discussions in equity and justice, that is our uniting secret sauce. And I hosted a conference, I hosted a big concert for Ukraine. And I did that for the obvious reason of what's going on there. The threat to democracy there is a threat to democracy everywhere. But some of my East African brothers and sisters said, well, you know, in Tigray and Ethiopia and Eritrea, there's a lot of, in East Africa, there's a lot of turmoil and threats to democracy there too. Why are you giving so much attention to Ukraine? And so we did the concerts as we raised a lot of money. We gave about 70% to Ukraine and 30% to other organizations. Because I said that I will be a mayor of such an important city to lead the conversation on equity. And that's, I think, the opportunity in front of us. In this country where there's so much anti-Asian hate going on, I gave you the statistic, 336% increase in the last year. Therein lies our opportunity to unite amongst ourselves to lead and help and assist and facilitate the country's discussions on equity. And that's why I'm here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your speech, and thank you for coming all the way from Seattle. There's a Bruce Lee expo in Chinatown, so welcome to go there and take a look. Thank you very much. Now we have a surprise for all our guests. The big cake time. Where's the cake? Oh, I see the cake. And also
So far we have only birthday lady today. Anyone else whose birthday is today? No one else? Going once?
I can join.
Going twice? Okay. Now we have the birthday lady, May Tolarson here. Today is her birthday, so let's sing the birthday song for her.
Let's sing the birthday song for her. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
You decided you take it home, share with your husband.
Yeah, please say a few words.
Thank you. The good thing about being born in the Philippines is that I have my birthday for a day and a half. I already had people greeting me yesterday. But I also want to share this cake with someone whose birthday is now in the Philippines, May 2. But, come over. Her birthday is May 2, but she was born in the Philippines, so it's already her birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday. Happy birthday to both of you.
Congratulations, happy birthday. Enjoy the cake. Anyone wants to share, just go to her. I think that concludes tonight's session. And I want to express our appreciation to all of you who are present today. And today we honor the invaluable contributions that generations of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders have made to our country by continuing to fight for equal opportunity and justice for API communities. Let's center our voices in our work to build a better, more inclusive America for all. Thank you very much. And the night is still young, so please enjoy the dessert, coffee, tea, and more social time. Thank you very much.